Welcome to the PowerCat Podcast, the original K-State sports show. Now let's go to Kansas City, home of GPC's hidden studio. Here's your host, Cole Carmody.
Hello, everyone, and welcome in here to another episode of Fighting Ever Fighting. I'm Cole Carmody from GoPowercat.com, and this week we got a very special guest. So much accolades I can't even hardly talk to start the show. Cooper Beebe, the current Dallas Cowboy, the former Kansas State Wildcat, All-American Outland Trophy finalist, Big 12 champion, and most importantly, Pop-Tart Bowl champion. Cooper, Pop-Tart Bowl champion. How is life in the Big D down in Dallas?
Oh man, I can't complain. I'm blessed. It's been a good, month here so far. Just getting, around the guys, getting to know the scheme, getting to know the organization. But it's definitely been a challenge, but it's definitely been a fun one for sure. I'm definitely blessed.
Does it feel real yet? I mean, I can only imagine those emotions that you have on draft night, and then you get down there, and I know that you're around the rookies before you're around anyone else, but has it really set in yet that here in about a month you're going to be going to your first NFL training camp?
Yeah, it's definitely set in. When I first got drafted, it really didn't feel real. That time, I had a couple of weeks or a month before I reported, and it didn't feel real then. And then I got here, and then definitely feels real now. Just being around. We just got done with mini camp and being around the vets, so it definitely feels real for sure.
And then obviously you are joined in Dallas by your former Wildcat teammate, good buddy Deuce Vaughn. I guess throughout this whole draft process, when Dallas was showing interest, I mean, there had to have been some excitement that, man, I might get to block for Deuce again.
Absolutely. And it's kind of funny because, I trained down here in Frisco pre-combine, and I ran into Deuce a couple times. And, we talked about having a K-State reunion here in Dallas. And then, sure enough, I get drafted here. And, right after, he called me up and was just, how excited he was. And, it's going to be fun, blocking for him again.
Well, and what's crazy is it's not just Deuce Vaughn. Dallas is really a big area for a lot of alumni for Kansas State. I know there's a lot of K-Staters in Dallas. I mean, that was evidence with the Big 12 championship game, just a few years ago. You guys saw that. K-State Nation travels well, but there's a lot of K-Staters that live in Dallas. Have you run into any K-Staters since you've been down there?
Actually, yes, I have. I've been, me and my girlfriend got an apartment down here, and I was at Nebraska Furniture Mart looking for furniture, and sure enough, I run into a guy wearing a K-State shirt, and we talked for a while, and he said he went back to K-State back in the day, so ran into a few people for sure.
That's got to be a nice little welcoming gift for you down there. But we'll talk about the NFL stuff here, towards the back half of this episode. But I want to get into your journey to K-State because the BB bloodline has produced some pretty outstanding football players, going all the way back to your dad. I know we've talked about this before, but my stepdad and your dad played at Pitt State together. I mean, it's just crazy how much football ties there are in this community. And was that kind of something since you were a young kid that you knew, like, all right, football is going to be my sport?
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, obviously my dad, he was All-American at Pitt State, and then my brother goes Division I to Minnesota, and going to his games and just watching him growing up, that's who I wanted to be. I wanted to be on the big stage. I wanted to play big time college football, and like you said, it kind of just ran in the family, and I was blessed with definitely the size and the abilities to do that, and I just wanted to continue the tradition that our family has with sports. So definitely knew from an early age that football was kind of going to be my thing.
And your youngest brother, Camden, obviously at K-State right now. I know that had to have been a blast. We'll touch on that here in a little bit, getting to play with him. But, when you're at Piper and you're kind of going through the recruiting process, historically, Piper has not been what you would call a Division I football factory. But then the BBs show up and all of a sudden that changes. When you're kind of getting recruited out of Piper, what was that whole process like for you? And obviously seeing your brother go through that, I'm sure that helped you, but that's always an interesting time in a young kid's life.
Yeah, definitely for sure. Like you said, Piper, really hasn't produced. I think we've had like 3, and they're all in the BB family, and they've gone Division I straight out of high school. But I definitely say that I was definitely blessed to have my brother go Division One. I think that definitely helped me get the looks for sure. And because my first offer was from Minnesota, and obviously if I didn't have that connection with Colton, I may never had that. And better than anybody else, when those dominoes kind of start falling, that's when you get the first offer comes in, and then kind of dominoes from there. But no, it was definitely interesting. Not a lot of schools came and visited me. There wasn't a lot of huge interest, but I was definitely blessed to, have K-State come. Coach Khan came in all the time. Early when I was getting recruited, Mo was there with the old staff. He'd
Yeah.
come to see me, and I'm definitely blessed, and it was definitely kind of unique. You only hear from a couple schools, and you really didn't know. When you don't get contacted that much, it's like, do I really have that talent level? Am I going to be able to play Division I football? But luckily, K-State extended an offer, and the rest is history.
And I remember you have talked about this before in a media availability, but KU, again, going through that time, like not exactly a very stable program. And here we are once again with another Kansas kid choosing Kansas State. I guess some of the other programs that were NRU recruitment, I'm wondering if you could talk about maybe some of those. Did you ever think about maybe trying to go to Minnesota and playing with your brother? And how did that, as far as other schools go, what other schools were involved?
So really, I mean, it was just those main three. I definitely had, different contacts from, like Nebraska, even Georgia was contacting me, even Stanford, some of those schools, but really those three were kind of the main three that were interested. And, at one point, I did consider going to Minnesota. When Coach Kill was there, we've been able to get, really close with him and his family, obviously with Colton being there and my dad. And, I considered it, and then they went through, a couple coaching changes, and, I didn't know, if I wanted to be there, without Coach Kill there. And, I think, I kind of just prayed about it and kind of talked with Colton about it. And, I wanted to stay close to home, and, K-State was just a place for me.
Amazing. Jerry Kill, all these Pitt State connections that just keep popping up everywhere. I mean, he just got done with an outstanding run at New Mexico State with that program.
Yep.
So many Pitt State connections everywhere in the college football world. But you get to K-State as a defensive tackle. How long did that last? Because I know I've heard stories, but you show up on campus as a defensive tackle. How long did that last?
I don't even think it lasted more than like 2 minutes, to be honest with you. Yeah. So, the story is, I get there, and, me and my dad are going to check out my locker, and, they told me I was going to be number 98. We get to our locker, and it says number 50 on there. And, me and my dad kind of look at each other and was like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to be playing defense anymore. And, sure enough, I get a text from Sped, and he's like, hey, Coach Kleiman and Coach Riley, they want to talk to you. And, I go up there, and they're like, yeah, we're going to have you play offensive line. And it was funny because at the time with Coach Dawson, when we worked out, we did offense and defense workouts separate. And, I went out there for the offensive workout, and he was yelling at me. Thing. And yeah, so he didn't even know. So it was kind of a funny story, but in the end, it all worked out for sure.
Well, it's kind of ironic that you went from defense to offense, and here we are, all these changes later, and you're getting ready to maybe play a different position down in Dallas. We'll talk about that a little later when we get to the NFL stuff. But you're at K-State, and that class, I mean, man, correct me if it was the first class of Chris Kleiman, the first full class. And you get there with Coach Kleiman. I can imagine that there was some things that were a little bit different than maybe what some of those guys were used to.
For sure. And it was actually kind of funny because Coach Snyder actually retired on my official visit, believe it or not. We had a meeting, and, he said he was still going to be here. And sure enough, we're walking out, and all the players are walking in, and he retires.
Wow.
So that was definitely a whirlwind for me. But, once Coach Kleiman got hired, I was one of his first calls, and, he extended that offer to me. And, I was just grateful that they wanted me to be there. But it was definitely just from talking with the older guys, it was definitely a culture change, and I think it was something that K-State needed at the time. And I think it's definitely it was a struggle to begin with. I'll say that in 2019 and the first couple of years, just kind of trying to weed out all the bad eggs and that kind of thing, and all the negative aspects that can hurt a football team. And I think now we've definitely got it in the right direction, and we're continuing to build. And Coach Kleiman and all the dudes that have played for him have definitely steered the program the way it needs to be.
As far as learning offense, I mean, a lot of people think that, it's pretty easy just to pick up offensive line, right? How hard can it be? You're just blocking the guy in front of you. I know you played offensive line in high school, but I mean, what people don't understand in the college scheme is completely different than, high school schemes. How long did it take you to adjust to just being a full-time offensive lineman?
It definitely took me a minute. Anytime you go into a new program, especially it's your first big program. The playbook's a lot more expansive than it is in high school, and there's a lot more detail involved with it that people I don't think really understand. They just watch. We can have the same scheme, but it's ran 8-10 different ways. And I don't think people understand the complexity of it, but it definitely takes you a minute. But once you're able to process all that information and kind of be able to remember it, and it just allows you to play that much faster and that much more confident. And I think that's one of the reasons throughout my years that my play has just continued to elevate, is because I was comfortable with the system, and then now you can go beyond that. Now you can start studying defensive keys. What are those telling you, and different aspects of that I think has really helped me through my game throughout college.
So you go from tackle to guard to tackle to guard, and then you're bouncing all over the place. I mean, you were that Swiss Army knife, really the first guy that Coach Riley had at K-State that, he loves his linemen who are able to play multiple positions. You were really that first guy. I mean, when you're kind of thrown in that position, again, offensive line is not the same. Every position is different. I mean, that puts a lot. That puts a lot on you as a lineman. It puts a lot. It obviously shows Coach Riley's trust in you. But I guess at what point did you start to realize, like, man, like I'm getting pretty good. I'm figuring this out. The results are showing on the field. I mean, I'm curious because you had been a contributor, but then it just seemed like overnight a light switched, and it went from being a really good, reliable piece to, wow, he is a mainstay on that offensive line.
I think really, it's probably that 2021 year, because in 2020, it was the first time I started. I started at right tackle, and honestly, it wasn't always, I wasn't always confident about my abilities early on. When we played Arkansas State, I gave up 2 sacks, got benched that game. Like, there was definitely doubt, if I could play at this level. That kind of doubt crept into my mind. I didn't know, like, I was like, at that point, I was like, dang, if I can't, block dudes from Arkansas State, how am I supposed to block these,
Right.
Power 5 competition guys? And, I think, Coach Riley did a really good job, and some of those other guys just building that confidence and knowing that, they brought me in here for a reason. They believe in me. And I think, even though the Oklahoma game after that didn't start off hot, I think, winning that game definitely gave me the confidence. I'm like, okay, we just beat, number whatever Oklahoma. Like, I can play at this level. And, I think I continued to build off that. But really in 2021, at left tackle, I think is where I was like, okay, I have a shot to be, one of the best linemen, in the country. And I think that's kind of when it kind of clicked and stuff started clicking for me. I really understood the offense, and it allowed me to play fast, allowed me to play confident. And, really, I tell a lot of guys, the confidence is really the key. And that's something I struggled with early. But, once you believe that, you can do it, you can beat anybody else, there's nobody out there that can stop you.
It really is remarkable because very rarely do we see, offensive linemen drafted into the NFL playing multiple positions. And really in the NFL, that makes guys valuable. If you can play multiple positions, then there's always going to be a spot for you. We've seen that with multiple K-State linemen of the past, BJ Finney,
Absolutely.
Cody Whitehair, Dalton Reisner, all those guys who had long NFL careers because they're able to play multiple positions. And, you've done it at the college level, but you've talked about Coach Riley a lot, and you've talked about how much he's impacted your life publicly. But now that, you're kind of out of that building, and, you've kind of had some time to think and reflect, like, have you thought anymore just about what he means, not only to you as a football player, but just to you as a man in general?
Yeah, I mean, he just, I can't say enough great things about him. I mean, he just means the world to me. I love him to death. I think, he's one of the reasons I'm the man I am today. Just that, like you said, outside of football, kind of the values that he instilled with me. Because one of the big things, man, about him is, he wasn't just going to build you up as a player. He was going to build you up as a man. And, I truly see that in the person I am today. You come into college as a little kid, a little boy, and, you transform into a man, and he did that for me, not just on the field, but as a person. And, I'm forever grateful. I can't say enough good things about him. I love him to death. I'm going to be in contact with him, for the rest of my life. We're still in contact now a lot. And, every time I get a chance, I'm definitely going to come back and see him. But like I said, I love him to death. I can't say enough good things about him.
So before the 2022 season, let's get back to that Big 12 championship team. You guys bring in Adrian Martinez, and the offense has some nice pieces, new additions on defense. After a pretty successful season, maybe expectations aren't super high outside, but inside, you guys knew you had a really good chance to be successful. How much fun was that? I mean, obviously, the Oklahoma game was outstanding to watch. Outstanding to be at. You had some low moments, the Tulane game, but it really seems like the more the years go by, that 2022 team, it just becomes more special because of the ups and the downs that you guys had to go through.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, that just speaks to the culture that we built there. A lot of teams, you lose to Tulane, a game that, I think, usually at the beginning of the season, you're like, okay, you should beat that team, whatever. And you lose that game, and, you hear all the outside noise like, wow, our season's over, and that kind of thing. And, after that game, we pulled together as a team, and, we righted the ship. And I think that just speaks to the culture and the maturity that team had. And, we knew adversity was going to strike. We didn't think it was going to strike that early, but, we knew we needed to respond. And, just the dudes in that locker room were able to, right the ship and, just get the job done. We didn't care, what it took. Some games there were some ugly games, but, we were going to thug it out and get the job done. And, when I look back, it's like you said, it's a special team. That group of guys, it's just, it's just to see all the hard work and everything that, you work for, just to, see it accomplished. And, like you said, it was never, nothing's ever a straight road. There's always bumps and stuff in it, but, we were able to, continue to fight through adversity. And, I think just a special group, and, that's going to be a memory I have for, the rest of my life.
We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors. Welcome back to the show. Let's head back to the studio.
And inevitably, when you make your Cowboys debut, there will be an announcer, a writer, a radio person who says, and Cooper Beebe makes his debut inside of AT&T Stadium, minus the fact that you have been there now. Let's see, 2 Big 12 media days, a game against Stanford, and the Big 12 championship game. So you spent a lot of time down there in AT&T Stadium. I can only imagine what it's going to be like running out for a Cowboys game, but what's your favorite memory inside of that stadium?
Oh, I mean, you just can't go, you cannot go with, the Big 12. I mean, it's just something that, it's just a surreal moment that's going to be cemented in, K-State history forever. And, just like I said, all the hard work, all the tough workouts, all the days, and struggled to get up and, go to work. And then just to see that come to fruition, and, you see the confetti drop, you're hoisting the trophy, and then, you get back to Manhattan, you go to the basketball game, you're celebrating there. It's just, I just can't, there's no memory in AT&T yet that can compare to that. And that's going to be, until I, start for my first game or play my first game. I think, the Big 12 definitely has it for sure.
And so then after that season, you have a choice. And I think most everybody around the program anticipated you to go into the NFL draft. I mean, had an extremely successful career, already one of the most decorated linemen in school history, and you're faced with a decision, and so are all those other guys up front with you. And do we come back? Do we come back for another year, or do we move on? And you guys, as a unit, made the decision to come back. I know you've talked about it before, but now that you've kind of had a year to reflect, and you went through last year, are you happy you made that decision?
Oh, absolutely. I wouldn't change it for the world. And I think that just speaks to the brotherhood we have in the O line. Like you said, we all came together. And, like a lot of the dudes, they're, especially me and too, like, hey, do we move on? Do we start our next chapter? But we knew, we like you said, we had a great team. And you knew we were going to bring back a good team, and we wanted to continue to move the program forward. And, I think that speaks to, just the dudes, on that O line and in that locker room that, decided to come back when we didn't have to. And, we still wanted, stuff to accomplish. Obviously we didn't accomplish what we wanted to with another Big 12 championship and that kind of thing. But no, I definitely wouldn't change it for the world. The memories and stuff I made, along the way, I'm going to remember that forever. And, just the bonds with those dudes, it's just something special. And, I'm so glad I, didn't leave early and, had another year at K-State.
So you are the grizzly old man along with everybody else up front, and this past fall, and in comes this long-haired, blonde-headed kid named Avery Johnson, arriving with tons of fanfare, tons of hype, and you still got a pretty good quarterback, by the way, in Will Howard, who had an extremely successful year last year. What was it like just to kind of watch those two guys compete with each other? Because I know there was a lot made of who should start and who should play, and they both had really successful seasons. But getting to watch both of those guys every day in practice, I'm curious because again, you don't often see a quarterback transfer to Ohio State from Kansas State, and then you don't often see another kid in Avery Johnson accumulate all the hype that he's already gotten, and he hasn't even started two games yet.
Yeah, no, definitely. It was definitely special. And, one thing that, I'm going to applaud that probably people don't realize, is about Will Howard and how much he took Avery under his wing and taught him everything he knew. That's something that, not a lot of guys will. Like you said, you're coming in, you're competing for a quarterback spot. And, I think a lot of people would look at that and be like, hey, why am I going to help you? You're trying to take my job. But, Will, did everything he can to, teach Avery, everything that he knew. And I think that's just a testament to, the culture that we built at K-State. We knew that, we're trying to build up everybody. It's just not the starters, that need the work. It's everybody. And, no matter, if you're competing for a spot or not, like, we're going to build you up because at some point, throughout the season, it's a long season and, we're going to need you. But no, it was definitely special just seeing those two guys compete each other because, they made each other better in different aspects. And I think that's what makes football special and fun is the competitiveness. And you saw that in practice. They're always, like when you're throwing into, like, they're trying to throw so you can, be the most accurate throwing into a net and that kind of thing. They're always competing against each other. But, at the end of the day, they loved each other. And, it's special to see. You don't see that at, a lot of programs. Dudes would be selfish about that kind of thing. But I think it just speaks to, the person, who Will is and the maturity he has and just, how great of a dude he is.
And so it felt like on senior night in the snow. By the way, crazy game. I can only imagine what it was like to play in. Talk to me about that here in a second. But like, on the field pregame, you could kind of feel like it felt like, all right, this is going to be a special night. Obviously honoring guys like yourself, Will Howard, Ben Sinnott. It felt like, everybody was going to hang around for one last go around. And obviously it didn't end how you guys wanted to. And now you have that now infamous video of Will Howard kind of looking back to the field as he leaves, and what ended up ultimately being his last game in purple. And, you once again, you guys are faced with a decision. Do we decide to prepare for the future, which in today's era of college football, I don't think anybody would have blamed anyone for doing that. K-Staters certainly didn't blame Will Howard or Ben Sinnott. But you guys are faced with a decision. Do we play in the bowl game or do we not? I know that you've talked about getting Connor Riley as your offensive coordinator was a main reason why you guys decided to stick it out. But what were the emotions like after senior night? And talk to me about playing in that game, because I'm very curious to know what an offensive lineman's reaction is to playing in the snow. But just that kind of whole few weeks after senior night.
No, it's definitely very emotional. Just, it's always funny, when you get there a freshman and you hear the seniors like, hey, the time flies. And you don't realize that until you become a senior. And, when you run out there knowing that, this could be, possibly your last game ever at Bill Snyder. And then, there's a lot of emotions. You just kind of think back to, all the long days, all the hard runs, all the summer conditioning, all the winter conditioning that, you've done on that field, and, all the games that you played, and to know that, it's coming to an end. It's definitely emotional. And, I definitely teared up for sure. It's hard, when you run out there and, you hug Coach Kleiman, and it's just, slowly coming to an end. And, I run over to my parents, and, my mom's bawling, and, it's just a lot of emotions going on. Just knowing that, all of your hard work and, your 5 years there, 4 or 5 years there is coming to an end. It's definitely very emotional. And, it's definitely something that I think is hard to shake, on senior night, especially, going from all that emotion to play a game. But, no, it's definitely a lot. It's definitely pretty sad, but, it's also, kind of pretty happy to know that, you succeeded. You're living out your dream. You completed your dream. And, but, when it comes to the game, it was definitely kind of an interesting. This is the first real, snow game I've ever had. And to have that much snow, it was definitely fun and kind of challenging at the same time. I remember going up to the line, and, half the time you're kicking snow away just to be able to touch the ground.
Yeah.
And, you're kicking snow at the defensive lineman. He's kicking it right back at you. And, it's hard to find your footing. But no, it's definitely like one of those games, you dream of, when you're playing, on Madden, you always pick the snow games and that kind of thing. It's such an unreal kind of experience. And, it was kind of insane knowing that, on offense, we had over like 100-something snaps.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like that, honestly. It didn't. We were just – it's almost like you're out there kind of like, on the playground. You're just kind of, playing around in the snow. That's kind of what it felt like. It was definitely, kind of a surreal moment. Obviously, the game didn't end, the way we wanted it to. But in terms of playing in it, it was super fun. I think – also, honestly, it wasn't very cold. It might have been
No,
cold in
yeah.
the stands, but out there it was warm. It was fun. It was definitely, challenging, but it's definitely a kind of a memory that I'll remember for sure.
And I'm going to ask you about the Pop-Tarts Bowl here in a second, but I mean, I can say firsthand, just being down there, I was a little surprised because like it's wet. It was wet snow. Like that is the thing that I remember that stood out the most to me was it was wet snow and it just kept falling. It just didn't stop the
Yeah,
whole
it
game.
just
It just kept
would
going.
not stop.
It didn't stop. And then obviously you go from that to then now going to Orlando and great game. Obviously you get a chance to play with some of the younger guys and while also, playing for your offensive line coach who then becomes the full-time offensive coordinator. But as far as like the actual, just the whole week around the Pop-Tarts Bowl and then the celebration, it's kind of turned into an internet meme now. Just how much fun was that game?
Oh, it was so fun. And one of the things, just for me and a lot of the other guys that kind of knew it was kind of the end. It was really the big thing was just enjoying the moment, and just enjoying the whole week. Just getting together. We went to Universal and did so much things together. But when it comes to the game, there was definitely some kind of, you didn't know what to expect. We had a lot of dudes, either transfer or leave. And, but, like you said, the O-line wanted to stick together to, help Coach Riley. And, we knew we had a, freshman quarterback that, needed our help. And, we wanted to continue to, push the program forward and get a win. And I think, like I said again, I think it just speaks to the culture that's being built at K-State. We had the option, like, a lot of people thought I would probably sit out, and people always ask me about that, but I had no thought in my mind to ever sit out. I wanted to finish my college career, on the right note. Personally, I think it's it's kind of selfish for dudes to opt out. But that's just my take. But yeah, K-State meant so much to me. They've done so much for me, and I just wanted to give them one more game out of me, and finish my career off right.
So when you get to K-State, you have to choose a major. You can't just choose football. I'm sure there's a lot of your teammates that would love to just choose football and make that their full-time major, but you choose education. And that's something that we also have in common. A lot of folks probably don't know this, but you student taught at Rock Creek for the same student teacher that I taught just a year later. And so here is this big offensive lineman, already an All-American, who decides to come back for one more year. Now he's teaching 10th graders. What was Mr. Beebe, the teacher, like?
It was definitely cool. I definitely had a kind of celebrity status for sure. It's funny. I walked in and, Mr. Zabel had all the K-State posters and all that stuff. And, people definitely knew who I was. But no, it was fun. It was such a good time. Just, it was definitely challenging, kind of balancing that with spring ball. And I mean, how much, work, lesson planning and, filling out your student portfolio and all that kind of thing. It was definitely some long days, but, I tried to make it fun. I tried to make, I taught American history. I tried to make it, as fun and as interactive as possible. And I think the kids, really enjoyed that. And, I had a great time. It was definitely fun. Like I said, it was challenging, but it's definitely a memory that I enjoyed and something I enjoyed to do.
So in 15 years after you've had a widely successful NFL career, is the plan to become a coach?
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely want to stay around football as long as I can. Originally, I thought about college, but just kind of to see how much time and effort they're away from their family. I didn't feel like that was something that I wanted to do, especially when I have kids. I want to be around for them. So really, my goal is to coach high school football and teach. Once my career is over. Now, who knows if I play long enough, maybe the teaching part kind of goes out the window and just coach. But no, that's kind of the goal now. I think for me is I want to have an impact in kids' lives. That's one of the reasons I chose education, and that's one of the reasons I want to be a coach. I think your goal in life should be to impact others, and a teacher and coach. I think there's no better way to do that. So it's definitely my goal after my career's over.
Well, the Ed Cats are gonna love this segment of that show. I hope you understand. Hope you understand that, Cooper. You just got a soundbite that they're probably going to use in all the montage videos now. As far as your NFL status goes, we'll end with that, man. Just like you've got to be just so excited because not only are you in a great spot with some familiar people, but I mean you're walking into a really good situation with the Dallas Cowboys. Just how excited are you to get going?
Absolutely. I'm very excited. Like you said, I'm put in the perfect position. I got a lot of talent, a lot of veterans around me that have played the game that I can continue to learn from. Like I've said before, Zach Martin was one of the dudes that I took a lot from, and here I am now playing right next to him. So no, I'm super excited. I'm super blessed. I definitely think I got drafted into the right situation, and just to be able to live out my dream that I've had since I'm a little kid. It's just surreal, and I'm just cherishing every day I can, and just continuing to grind, continuing to learn, and trying to better myself.
And there's been some talk of you, tackle, guard. The one position you didn't play at K-State was center. I know that you might have worked there during practice, but potentially playing center this year for the Cowboys. Just how is that adjustment going? And again, all offensive line positions are different, but center is a pretty unique spot.
Yeah, definitely for sure. It was funny. I talked to Coach Riley, and he was mad about not playing me at center because we kind of knew at some point that they'd probably want me to learn how to play center, and me being a smart dude, I knew that would probably be a possibility. And I think the biggest change is just you control everything. You got to know all the calls, all the scheme, all the IDs, and that's one thing, that's something that takes time, and that just takes time to learn, just throughout the whole process, and you're the one directing traffic. Sometimes when you play guard, a lot of times if you don't know what's going on, you just listen to your center and you can kind of figure it out from there. But now I'm running the show, and especially when you have these veterans right next to you, there's definitely some, pressure put on you to make sure, you steer everybody the right way. But, I'm excited for the challenge. It's not, like you said, it's something new, but, it's something that's just going to, I'm continuing to rep and, I'm going to continue to get better at. And, I think it's just going to add to the versatility, of me and allow me to play and have a longer career.
Well, Cooper, I think I speak for everyone who's ever attended or been around you, ever attended a K-State game, been around you personally. We are rooting for you. And so there's a lot of people who are in your corner who know that you're going to be successful. And I'm personally very excited to watch you and Deuce play. That's something that is going to be a really cool experience. I'm sure you're fired up about it too. And I'll leave you with this. I will leave you with this. Now that you have kind of moved away and you're no longer living in Manhattan, living in Kansas City. Just how thankful are you for not just the program, but the people, the city of Manhattan, and really how has that kind of helped you get to where you are today?
No, yeah, Manhattan, it'll forever be home for me. And like you said, it wasn't just the university that I enjoyed, man. It was, the community, just getting out and talking to people, doing community service events, it was something that I love to do. And, just taking time to, appreciate the people that came to the games, traveled all over the place. That was one of the reasons, I went on the Catbacker tour, just to show my appreciation for, all the Wildcat fans. And, Manhattan will always have a place in my heart. Hopefully, one day, when my career's over, who knows, want to move back close to Manhattan for sure. So I can, be around Manhattan, go to football games, go to basketball things, that kind of thing. But like I said, Manhattan's forever home. I'm forever, ever grateful for all the people that I've, came in contact with, all the conversations I've had, with the people throughout Manhattan, the community. It'll be in my heart forever. And, I can't wait to get back to see a game.
Well, hopefully you're back before this happens, but you will be back when your name gets up there on the Ring of Honor. You better believe that, Cooper. Hey, thanks so much for taking the time to join me today on Fighting Ever Fighting. Really appreciate it, man, and good luck with everything you have going on.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
This has been a GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.